Hey, John, I always hit that button.
Yeah.
There's
How's it
no way
going?
to turn it off without hitting that by mistake. So I'll figure out how
Yeah.
to use StreamYard one of these days.
Yes.
Today is not the day. I'm Ed Charbonneau. With me is John Bristow, and this is Eat Sleep Code, where we talk
How's it
about
going? What's happening?
random
How's everyone's
stuff,
week going?
technology and news and
Yes.
programming, and we just geek out stuff lately. It's all good though. I
It's
was actually just geeking out to the theme song as it played in. That was AI generated. If you haven't watched the show before,
I think people can tell.
I think they can too. A couple of years ago, you would have never assumed, but yeah, it's pretty standard these days. But we created that on the show in like 10 minutes or less. But I was admiring the song because I got a new laptop and it's nothing really to brag about, but the audio is really good, strangely
Your
enough.
camera looks better too. They can make out
Camera's
all
the
the things
same
fine.
camera I've always had. I don't know
All
why
right.
it might look better. The lighting is good today because it's not super cloudy, but it's not like, still that low winter sun. But I don't know. I remember back in the day, like you had to pay money hand over fist to get audio that didn't sound like MIDI, like bleeps and bloops. And now like I get a run of the mill corporate laptop and like the audio is just really crisp and clear and surprisingly good. Like better than my
Congratulations.
gaming machine for some reason. It's kind of
Yes.
depressing. Like I got all this money invested in a gaming PC and the audio is not as good as this uh, reasonably average Dell laptop. But anyhow, I digress. It's been a long and busy week. I did technically two webinars this week. I did
Nice.
a dry run yesterday and then the live webinar today. So if you weren't part of that webinar, which you probably weren't, check out Telerik.com/webinars and it'll be up there. It'll be on our YouTube channel as well. But we had a customer come on and show how they do their, I don't want to call it vibe coding because that gives it a bad rap. It was spec driven development, similar to what Guy was talking to us about last week. We did a webinar and surprisingly similar content. Like he was writing skills and specs and instructions in Markdown, and then letting the AI have at it and implement stuff. What I found kind of interesting, John, is that the more planning you do up front, like the quicker the AI run seems to be. And I think part of it's because you're doing the work in separate pieces, right? You're like, you may let the AI do the planning part, and then after the planning part, you're letting it do the coding part. So it kind of splits up the task. So maybe it doesn't seem so long because there's a little bit of a break in between where you're like, okay, I just finished planning. Now I can go on to the next thing, and there's a little bit more human in the loop. But it seems surprisingly faster. So I have to give some of the techniques a try.
Nice.
Um, it's a great webinar. I'll share the link to it next week uh, because the YouTube video won't be up until probably a couple days from now. But we'll keep tabs on that and come back to it. But it was really good. It was a lot of fun. But because of that, I don't have a ton of content. So John, I'm gonna let you kick things off with some of the news finds for the week, and then I'll share what I've got and we'll wrap up.
Nice. Well, I've mentioned Tree Sitter in the past. So this is basically it's a parser generator tool, and it allows you to create what are called like parsing libraries. And this is really good if you're wanting to create syntax trees. You might ask yourself, what the heck are you talking about? Why would I need this, etc.? So oftentimes when let's say you're writing an IDE extension or plugin and you want to parse the format, or you want to parse the text that's inside
Mhm.
a document that's loaded inside the IDE. We did this for the, by the way, for the Visual Studio Code extension for Octopus Deploy.
Oh,
We
cool.
needed a tool like Tree Sitter in order to parse the text that was in a document in order to represent it as a tree view. Now, tree sitter isn't obviously a tree syntaxing. It's more than just that. But we needed it to represent what the tokens were in our files. The reason why I bring this up is because I've mentioned it in the past. But there's a new library on the block, and it's built in Go, and it's this one here. It's called Go Tree Sitter. And the reason why I mention this is just because this is a pure Go implementation. There's no need for any CGO bindings or anything like that. So this is something that you can use if you're all curious. It was something that I thought was interesting, and it's available now up on GitHub.
Southpaw is asking if there's a proper time for questions. We are live and answering questions. If I see it in chat, I'll try to answer it live as we go. So thanks for joining us, Southpaw and Joe or Jose. Welcome to the chat room. No, this looks really interesting. Like there, you could see some of this type of stuff if you're doing like Visual Studio extensions. Or even Visual Studio themes, Visual Studio Code themes, sorry, where you can see how Visual Studio Code is breaking down the AST and like flagging it with tokens and things. You can style them with theming. So it's really cool to see how these interpreters break down the code and lexicalize it and all of that stuff. It kind of gets into the black box, and it's really just neat to see if you're geeking out to stuff. But
this one is really important. It's got a bunch of language bindings associated with it, but the reason why it's important is because it's used quite a bit, and definitely one that we've used and found very useful in that context. So just worth checking out.
I've got to ask, does it have an MCP server? Like,
why would it have an MCP server?
Everything does these days. Why not, right?
Okay.
I
sure.
know there's.
Why not?
I know there's not one. I'm being facetious, John.
Yes, gotcha.
As I often do.
Yeah. So check it out. You can find it up on GitHub. It's a cool little project. Obviously, Anthropic's been really busy. They've just announced Claude Sonnet 4.6. This is the continuing evolution of everything that they're doing around language models, etc. Claude obviously is used in a variety, Sonnet is utilized in a variety of contexts, of course. And for this, this was shipped just earlier this month. It's their most capable Sonnet model yet, as they like to claim. And this is, it's got capabilities for coding, capabilities for computer use, long context reasoning, agent planning, knowledge work, etc. One of the big changes that they announced early on was the ability to have 1 million tokens in the context window. So that's a huge sort of capability available inside here. So this is great if you're working with large code bases or contracts or research stocks, things like that.
Absolutely.
And they've added other things like, enhanced instruction following, consistency, fewer hallucinations, all that sort of stuff. The default model now is free, available for free and pro users, and that's available on Claude.ai, obviously, and through Claude Cowork. And the pricing is unchanged. Lots of performance improvements, etc. It's, definitely an evolution step. There's some changes also that they've made in terms of being able to do certain types of workloads, etc. But you can definitely check it out now. There's a lot of benchmarking results that are available as well.
I saw you panning through that, and it said stuff about computer use. Have you tried any of that yet? I still haven't tried this. I probably need to kick the tires on it and really give it a shot. But essentially, you're allowing the AI to operate your computer, and that sounds both scary and fascinating at the same time, right?
Well, so this is this was the OpenClaw, Open Code, Open Claude, now OpenClaw, etc. That's now been incorporated. Peters has joined Anthropic now, so definitely part of that sort of idea of being able to work with your personal data stores, for example, and driving use of it on the local instance. This is part of the reason why you're seeing a lot. Sorry.
This is enabling it to actually like operate your like mouse and keyboard and like applications and whatnot too, though.
Sure, you would drive a lot of that through tooling that you can have on your local machine for sure, and that's a case that a lot of people are looking at for a lot of their work. So yeah, definitely worth checking out. These continue to evolve, and Anthropic's no different than anything else. It seems like every time they announce something, the stock market reacts for sure. So that's an interesting side effect.
We've seen that in the past couple of weeks here. There was a little bit of a slump for a few days. Things picked back up though. Did you notice?
Yes, I did. The reason why I mentioned that also is because there's a lot of talk about what's called the SaaScopolis. This is basically the demise of SaaS companies, and featured here are the founders of Atlassian and Canva, two
Hmm.
Australian companies. The reason why it's Australian is because this is the AFR, the Australian Financial Review, and this is an article and podcast episode that they put out, which is kind of interesting. I mean, the folks who are covering this are actually identifying something that is seeing as a trend now these days, which is people are now concerned about the long-term viability of these SaaS companies going forward. And this is a conversation that occurred. They rightly point out the fact that Atlassian has dropped 55% this year in terms of their valuation, as a result of people viewing what they do, things like bug tracking and work items and Confluence and stuff like that, and seeing it as sort of, is this a long-term sort of viable sort of model in the face of AI when you can basically vibe code these things up. So
Yeah.
if you're curious about reading about what some of the observations are and what some of the news is covering in that space, you can take a look at this article and listen to the podcast.
I'll give you my spin on it. Like
Go for it.
if their valuation dropped that much for the marketing hype that is around AI right now, don't get me wrong, there's some amazing stuff you can do with AI coding assistance, but the complexity of a system that's at scale like Trello or some of the other properties that are underneath of that company, uh, you're not going to vibe code that. Like like Susan from finance is not vibe coding your next ERP. I'm sorry, it's just not
Okay.
happening. Like, will a team of engineers be able to create something to compete faster? Sure, but the scale, I don't think people normies realize the scale of the software that we have. Things like Microsoft Office and Salesforce, and these systems are gigantic, man. They're
Hmm.
not something that you just whip up in a weekend.
Yep. Yep. So I agree. There is also the question of who's responsible if things go south, right? So if I vibe code something up, let's say I vibe code up a replacement for, let's take the example here, something that I'm using from Atlassian, like Jira, for example. If that thing breaks, who's responsible, right? And it
Hmm.
turns out no one. It's the person who vibe coded the thing, right? So part of the reason why you use products like from Atlassian and others is because they take on the responsibility, they took on the diligence and care and protection of their data, for example. And so that is something that I think you can't get out of generating something with AI. Yes, you can do it to generate code. That's unquestionable. But I think that when it comes down to diligence and data protection and, who do I call if this thing breaks? This is part of the reason why you pay folks for these things. It's like
Yeah.
it's like the analogy I like to make is like, yeah, you can go to the hardware store and pick up all the plumbing you want. And if you try and fix your sink yourself, you might be successful if you don't have never done it before, for sure. But if it starts leaking or water goes everywhere, you only have yourself to look at in terms of blame, really.
Yeah.
So, yes, you
And
can do this yourself.
again, the sheer scale of these things, like you,
Yeah.
you take for granted. Like you open up. I use Trello because that's one of their products, and we actually use it to plan the show. I use it for all my personal project planning. It's a great tool. But I mean, you're like, yeah, I could vibe code a task board in like an hour, right? Or maybe even
Mm.
less these days. But is it going to be, synced across all your devices, work on mobile, do like the million other things that it does, integrate with calendars, just keep that the features have been added to this thing for years, and they're doing it at a global scale, multi-tenant. I mean, you just keep adding in. Oh, I think we lost you, John.
Oh,
Um,
I'm still here. Sorry.
oh, your video cut out. But
Yeah, sorry
yeah,
about
I think people underestimate how complex modern software actually is, because they have phones on their apps and they're like, oh, this little thing runs on my phone, and it's the bigger picture is way different. Like there's servers behind that, databases, large language models connecting to things. It's not just a little bit of code that you can just vibe up and replace this stuff with.
Yeah.
But I do agree that like we're heading in the direction where code is cheap and it's disposable.
Yep.
But you still compose those cheap pieces of code into these large scale SaaS offerings that are out there.
Someone who's at the forefront of this is Jeffrey Huntley. He's the person who came up with the pattern for Ralph Wiggum, and has spent a lot of time thinking about AI, and in particular thinking about the impact that this will have on the future careers of developers. And so whenever Jeffrey writes something on his blog, I tend to read it. So Jeffrey in this blog talks, this is entitled Teleporting into the Future and Robbing Yourself of Retirement Projects. It's a great title, but he basically argues that AI, especially agent swarms, is letting builders basically teleport to the future by completing these sort of long deferred projects. We're all guilty of this. It's like, oh, one day, I'm going to build my cooking recipe app, or everyone's got a to-do app, etc. And then effectively robbing them of their future selves of their retirement goals. And so early adopters report intense creative spurts, even being sleep deprived. Apparently, this is a thing that's happening amongst some developers as they burn through their backlog of ideas and builds and running tools like this. And so there's a clever sort of analogy here is like the 6 stages of AI adoption by software developers. You first start off, it's not good enough, prove this to me that this isn't hype. This was me 3 years ago. Experimenting with LLMs, this was me, I think 2 years ago, you and I were talking about. Deer in the headlights, will I have a job in the future? This was certainly me last year. I thought a lot about this. And then alarmed, I never hit this stage. I was like, I wasn't never alarmed. Like, oh, this is just another tool. Engaged in consuming AI. I would say I'm probably here now. And then engage realization that LMs can be programmed in doing it. Yeah, these things are kind of the same thing to me. I've been using Cursor quite a lot. I've been using Open Code, etc. I've been doing a lot of Gen with this. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely an interesting idea. You get these sort of bursts of creative psychosis as you do this. And it's kind of like being, the analogy is that in The Matrix, right, they talked about how, they talk about how being introduced to this idea is overwhelming, like that you live in this sort of third world and, you need to change everything quickly. We are entering that sort of era now where developers in particular are seeing the value of this and they need to adopt quickly the tools that are available to us. I see AI as just an amplifier and being able to utilize it effectively. But it's a great article by Jeffrey. If you're at all curious about, kind of the things the observations that he's made in this space, there's a lot of new capabilities in the stacks that we're using today, both around automation and also around innovation. And it goes well and beyond just generate me an email. The idea is that this shift is going to reset your thinking for both creative folks and for engineers. And you need to start utilizing AI workflows very quickly, and that should be almost like a baseline skill these days. And so, definitely thinking about these things, and check out Jeffrey's post if you want some motivation there to transport yourself into the future.
Awesome. It's a great segue into my first share of the day here. As soon as the UI catches up. Come on, StreamYard.
I thought you had a new laptop.
I do. So I'm working through an issue with it. So come to find out, when they gave it to me, it has 2 USB ports. And one of those USB ports is occupied by the charging cable. So when I live stream right now, for me to have all of my monitors and my camera set up, I have to use both USB ports, and I have no way to charge it. So it is running off battery. So it's a little laggy. Right. And again, I did mention it is new, but it is a very corporate-y laptop. I think my desktop could still probably bury it. But anyway, I digress. First share here is a YouTube video, and this is from the NDC Conferences channel. So if you just Google up NDC Conferences underneath of YouTube, you'll find their their conference videos. NDC conferences are great. I've spoken at them, been to them. They have a big one in London every year, and they're starting to roll out some of the videos that were, or sessions that were given there. And this one is from Steve Sanderson. And if you don't know Steve, he works at Microsoft. He makes
Yep.
amazing things. And if you're not following him, then you're missing out on the latest things that are happening. This video, Steve is talking about how Microsoft and his team are using Copilot to write code. And he is on, he changes teams quite often because he's a brilliant, distinguished engineer, and he's always working on, like, they always put him on the latest thing that needs to be done. So now he is on the Copilot SDK team, from what I understand. And they are moving at a pretty high velocity because they're using AI tools to build AI tools. And he's talking about the number of significant features that are being built daily. And it's pretty crazy how much they're able to accomplish. And I didn't get through the entire video, but it's definitely something that I'm going to finish, and it's worth you checking out and watching, because he talks about some of the techniques that they're using, how this has made code in general just completely a cheap commodity. Like the entire, like I was just saying with the previous example, the entire code base itself may not be, you know, replaceable and easy to throw away, because these things become large after a while, and you have to have, you know, elaborate systems, you know, in the cloud and resiliency and all of that. But getting feature to feature, it's very cheap.
Yep.
And what he's saying is it costs next to nothing now to let the AI generate the next feature and then go back through and decide, is the way the AI implemented that code worth keeping or not?
Yep.
And he's like, do it, you know, prompt it 3 different ways, let it generate, you know, 3 different styles of implementation, pick the best one, or have, you know, mix the best of the 3. It's not really costing you anything, because, you know, your idle time while it's working. So you can go work on something else while it generates 3 proof of concepts.
Yep.
Pick one and run with it. Like
Yep.
it's definitely changed the game. Did it make a developer obsolete? Not really. It's just changed how he works, and he's, again, working at a very high velocity now because he's able to try many more techniques, many more, you know, framework implementations and code paradigms, whatever, simultaneously, rather than spending a day, you know, exploring a coding style or, you know, something that's going to get the feature built and get through the problem statement. So yeah, it's definitely accelerated what he's doing. He talks about that. I didn't make it through the entire thing, but I definitely will complete watching it, because Steve, brilliant engineer, and definitely somebody that you want to pay attention to.
Yeah, there's lots of talk about this sort of K-shaped economy, where folks who are rich are getting richer, folks who are not as rich are not getting as rich, and it's kind of diverging. I think there's something similar happening in the engineering space. There's sort of a K-shaped ability, or K-shaped capability rather, with engineering, where the folks who are leveraging AI tools are getting quicker and more productive and more efficient.
Yeah, it's definitely something you do not want to ignore. I've been saying for over 10 years, like, do not ignore AI. This is going to be where your career is going, whether you like it or not. And this is probably that fork in the road. Like, you're either going to retire or do something else, or get on board, because people that are using it are doing things faster than you.
Have a backup plan.
That's
like
the
welding.
bottom line. Yeah, there's plenty of things out there, but you got to get on the AI coding stuff, because it does accelerate your productivity. It really does. One of the ways it does that, John, is through the testing agent for GitHub Copilot. So
Nice.
there is a new unit testing plugin for Visual Studio 2026. This is an agent mode that helps you build unit tests. So it focuses your AI
Oh,
context
okay.
on writing tests and running tests. So this is
Nice.
just a something you could probably do before, but this is just enabling it through the UI, making it a little bit easier,
Mm.
and it gives the AI like the playground that it needs to play in.
Yep.
So this is specifically focused at writing tests and generating and running tests. Probably something I'll be using in the next couple of weeks. I'll explain more why in just a moment. I've got a small announcement that I want to make
There
that
we go.
this ties really well into. Before that, though, I wanted to share some more Microsoft news. Microsoft Agent Framework is in release candidate finally. So I think for all the Microsoft news that we share, we generally have mostly positive stuff to say. I really like Agent Framework. I feel like it's behind a little bit though. Like the Python community has like LangChain and LangGraph, and the .NET crowd really doesn't have a whole lot of stuff to work with besides Microsoft Extensions AI. And
That's fair.
we had Semantic Kernel. I don't feel like Semantic Kernel really, just my personal opinion here. The powers to be may disagree, but it never felt like it was production ready. It always had bits that were in preview. The core of it was GA, but there was always like, well, if you want to do RAG, then you're going to have to install this preview stuff, and you're going to have to flag it all as not for production and waive away any rights to support and this, that, and the other thing. There was always that feeling to it. And then Microsoft decided they were going to create Agent Framework, and they are suggesting you migrate from Semantic Kernel to Agent Framework. And Agent Framework itself is not GA. Like it has been in preview for months now, and not reached GA yet. So while it is behind, LangChain and LangJS and all of those things, I do think this is going to be a big win for .NET devs and Python devs too, because this is a framework that works in both Python and .NET, and it, even without AI tools, that makes things like easier to jump from one language to another. Now with AI, like it's way easier to jump from one language to another. I can air quote here, write Python without having to know Python. So I think this is going to be a big win overall. Something I've been learning about as much as I can, following the previews, building things with it, and there's just a lot of cool stuff that you can do with Agent Framework. And the Python community might say, "Hey, we already have it," but for .NET folks, this is really exciting stuff. Glad to see it coming to a 1.0 now with some stability.
Some updates in the chat. Napalm Codes has written, I feel like they quote unquote bungled this. I had no idea it was preview/beta until now. Been wondering why they say use math and there have been no courses.
Yeah. So they are starting to do webinar, or I don't know if you want to call it webinars. There's a learning series. It's in Python right now. So there is a evangelist that's doing like a 5-part series on how to use Agent Framework. I imagine they'll be doing a .NET one as well. The reason there's probably no courseware out there, I'm working on some myself, is because there's not stable bits and they keep breaking things and there's breaking changes all the time. And I got burned on this last year when I did my Introduction to AI beginner's course for DomeTrain. And I got to an example that was using RAG and Semantic Kernel. We went to ship the course, and the same day they pulled the plug on Semantic Kernel. So it got delayed for 3 months while those bits got rewritten into Agent Framework. Now that it's in Agent Framework, the courseware is out there, but my follow-up course is coming. All of the content is written. I haven't started recording videos yet because they made this announcement. And I know that I need to update all of the bits one more time before I give the video a run. Otherwise, I'm going to be reshooting video again, and that's not fun for me. So it is exciting. I am watching it. We will have a new course on Dome Train. I'm sure there'll be some Microsoft sponsored things as well. But yeah, it's been a confusing experience overall. Like the whole breaking from semantic kernel and saying everyone migrate to something that's not globally available yet or generally available. Kind of odd, but that is the AI break things, move fast mentality these days, I think. That is not a good segue for our products. We have new things. We didn't break anything. We are trying to move fast, though. And I think I mentioned this last week, John, that we had a big release, and I might have gone over these already, but I will mention some of them again. We've had document processing libraries for a while, and I think the AI stuff has made them more interesting. You and I both used to have to demo this stuff. John used to work with me here, and we'd have these document processing webinars and things to run. And it's like, what kind of exciting story can I tell around document processing? And it's hard. So it's hard to get excited about Office documents. It really is. But
speak for yourself.
What's cool is now we have like these AI plugins for the APIs that are in the document processing libraries. So you can like start connecting these document APIs into AI workflows. So you can do like mini RAG systems and things like that, like where you can inject context into the AI, have it sort documents. All of that type of thing is now possible through that. So there are agentic tools now in this that connect to like all the Office document types, PDFs, Excel, all of that type of thing. So that is actually really cool. And speaking of, that would give you like the mini RAG. If you want a real RAG system, we have something really cool in the Progress portfolio called Progress Agentic RAG. And this is a software as a service or RAG as a service. And what's really neat about it is you can put any type of documents into it. You can do images, video, PDFs, text, just dump it in. Real easy to add too. You can have it scrape websites, crawl with sitemaps, and it's got a back office that's really easy to use. And then once the data's in there, getting it out, you can do through REST API, JavaScript, TypeScript, or Python. Well, I've been working for the last couple months on a .NET SDK.
Nice.
So within just a few minutes, you can literally have a custom AI that's built on your data, your unstructured data. You can literally give it a sitemap, let it crawl through the site, write 3 lines of .NET code, and ask it questions about your web content and get AI answers from it. That's an insanely powerful tool. So this is going to be a lot of fun to work with. We actually have some demos out there as well that I helped to build. So our teams came up with these, but I was able to kind of help
zoom in so folks can see it. It's a little hard to see.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the full runnable demo. There we go. There we go. So this is some of the things it's capable of doing. One of the cooler demos, this financial analysis demo. This is all in Blazor, by the way. We also have it for React, if you're into React. But what we did is we took public data. So we're like, what kind of public data is out there we can make something interesting with? So we went and found the annual reports from some of the big, Fortune 100 companies, threw them into Progress Agentic RAG, and let it vectorize and chunk up all of that data. And now we can come in just with some natural language and say, compare NVIDIA to Google revenue. And it's going to go in to that PDF data, and it's going to pull out the financials for those companies and compare them. And you're probably like, yeah, I've seen demos like this before, but this is really neat, John. There's an open chart button. If you click on that, it's got charts that were built from that information as well.
And are those based on Kendo UI, for example?
These are Blazor, but they can be Kendo.
Gotcha.
They can be Angular, React, or Blazor. And this is all working through the new .NET SDK that's coming for Progress Agentic RAG, or actually it's here, it's in preview. But what's neat about this, it's using structured data for one. So it's taking unstructured data. It is literal PDFs that were found on the web. They're pulled into the database. We asked a natural language question on that. And then behind the scenes, what's happening is the RAG system's going out and it's fetching the results. And when it gets reprompted, the augmented part of the RAG system back into a response, the .NET SDK is telling us that we want the data to come back in a chart format. And there is a POCO, a plain class object,
yep,
that describes what the chart data looks like. And there's an agent inside of Progress Agentic RAG that is building metadata out of unstructured data. And then it marries the two up. So I need to write a whole article just on this technique. It was really cool. So there's an agent behind the scenes that digs through all the PDFs. And the agent's prompt is something like, you're an expert in creating charts out of unstructured data. Yes. Go find, if there's valid data in here that can be charted, build out the plots for the X, Y, yada, yada, yada. And then it gives it a JSON output. So the RAG system then has a JSON metadata for every document that has chartable data in it. And then when you throw that structured data object at the RAG system, it goes, oh, I know what that is because I have similar JSON data in my database. And without writing code to map those things together, it automatically just maps it because it has that semantic capability. So boom, you get charts. And it's really cool. Boom. It takes very little coding to actually do. And you can just sit here and query on stuff using natural language now. So that's just one of the demos here. There's a couple more that are search-based things, and we're going to build more. This is a really interesting technology that has a lot of capabilities beyond search. People think RAG is all about search. Search is how it gets the information. The prompts really change what that information can be. So for example, you can do product recommendations. You don't have to search for things. You can recommend things. You can do comparisons, sentiment analysis, all sorts of things. Anything you can do with a large language model, you can do here, but you're doing it on your data. And it's all grounded with citations and everything behind the scenes here. We're not displaying them right now, but they are cited. So you can dig back in and verify that things weren't hallucinated. So it gives you a lot of value there. So it's something that is coming. It is in preview now. You can get the NuGet package. You'll need to get on the RAG as a service as well to use it. But we have the NuGet package up, and it's very easy to get started. Like I said, it's just a couple lines of code, configure your connection, and then you write one line of code to get an answer back from it. So it's really simple to get started.
Nice.
Yeah, so the main RAG as a service product is currently at nuclea.com. It's undergoing a brand change right now.
Okay.
But there are demos available that you can, I think it's a 14-day free trial right now. And you can dump all sorts of data in it and start asking questions right away. It's just really cool to use.
So if I'm a developer, Ed, and I'm working on my solution for my company, etc., how would you propose I broach this topic with, say, stakeholders, for example, like, hey, I think it'd be really cool if we could allow our users to do X or Y. How would you describe that in context of this? Meaning, you know, because I think a lot of people would see this as like, are users going to really want to do this? So
Yeah.
I can see the value in this, of course, but are there any strong business cases that you guys are coming up with right now in this context?
There's too many. It's a good problem to have, but there's a lot of content that needs to be developed around this. So I'll give you one example of something that I did for our marketing team. During the .NET 10 release, there was a slew of blog posts coming out of the Microsoft teams. And you know this as well as I do, John. We covered a lot of it here on the show. It is scattered about devblogs.microsoft.com. It is embedded in GitHub under Markdown files in roadmaps and things like that, right? So I created these are called knowledge boxes in the Agentic RAG Cloud. So I've got a .NET 10 knowledge box. And what I did is I wrote a script using AI and Python. And again, I don't know Python, but we have an SDK for Python. I know AI is good at writing Python code. So I just gave it some prompts and I was like, I want you to use Playwright and this Python SDK to go out with Playwright, visit all these websites that have these updates for .NET 10, and then use the Python SDK to ingest those into my RAG system.
Okay.
So I wrote this script, it ran, it ingested all of the blogs, all of the GitHub Markdown links and all of that. And then I was able to hand this is the internal search widget, which you can deploy directly onto your site as a JavaScript widget. So you can do create widget and it'll give you a little cut and paste that you can stick on your site. And it gives you like all of the functionality out of the box. It can be tailored to your brand and stuff, but most folks will probably end up writing a like custom implementation of most things, but this is a nice quick start way to get things going fast. But for our internal team, we have access to the system here. I didn't need to do anything. I just told them to come into the search and use it directly. But they could come in as the marketing team now and go, what should I be, what type of topics should we be covering? So what's new with Entity Framework, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to give me a summary. And I could also, this is generative AI, so it doesn't have to be a question. It could be write a tweet about what's new in C#. And then it's gonna give me tweets. So we could do aggressive, like up-to-date marketing strategies based on the releases as they're coming out. And before, what would happen is you and me, John, would have to go visit all of these sites manually and mentally, work through all these releases, identify what's new and why it's important, and then maybe write up a blog post or write an internal memo to inform our marketing teams, like what's happening in the industry right now around this big release. Now I can just write a script and ingest all of that stuff in here, and then I can come in and do my research. Teams can come in here and do their research. They can write tweets. They can do whatever. And I have now taken my DevRel responsibility and just expanded it, my capabilities greatly. So that's just me doing my thing now. So imagine if you have a business that has many products that are all in PDFs, and you want to enable users to create recommendations. I give you a good example of that one. If you go to progress.com, we have a live working version of Progress Agentic RAG in here, and it's trained on all of, or not trained, sorry, that's a bad term to use. It has ingested all of our data for all of our products. So you could come in and say, I'm a JavaScript developer, and I'm building a dashboard. What product can I use? So it doesn't have to be your traditional question. Like, it's not a Google search. Like, treat this like AI. Ask it for answers that you want to know. And it's recommending Kendo UI for dashboards. It tells me all the options that are JavaScript related. Notice it didn't mention Blazor because it's not JavaScript. So you can do these product recommendations, and this could be self-service, but it could also be something that's enabling, like, your sales team, right? So you could have people coming in and asking sales folks, like, here's my problem I'm trying to solve, and then they can come in and enter this into a back end somewhere and get answers that they can bring to their customers, or it could be like a customer facing thing that they can just hand them and say, here, answer some questions about it. It could be, support system. Another really cool one is when we were first doing this this acquisition, we've got a lot of people in Progress onboarding, trying to learn about Progress Agentic RAG, which was formerly Nuclea. And they're coming to me as a point of contact, and they're like, how do I do X, Y, or Z in this new system that we just bought? I was coming into search here, and I was like, oh, okay, how do I ingest, let's just say PDFs, just make it easy. But they were more technical questions than this. It's hard to kind of riff on live stream to remember exactly what they were. But it was, like, how does this scale with this type of scenario, that type of thing? Well, it's self-aware. Like, it knows all of the abilities and capabilities it has. So I was going in here and I was just literally copying answers out of this and giving it to people. And I was like, why am I gatekeeping this? So I just started sending people to the search box. I'm like, click on search, ask your question there. And, if you're not comfortable with that, you can always ask me, but this is what I'm doing anyway. I'm not the expert yet, but this is how I'm becoming one. So it can be that triage for support as well. Like, there's just so many things you can do with it. It's really amazing.
Got
so
some
it's going to be a lot of
comments
fun
in the chat there, Ed.
Yes. What do we got here? Can you build a to-do app with React? So it's using your data and your data only. This is actually a funny thing that I was talking about with somebody I did the webinar with. And we were talking about Progress Agentic RAG and the fact that it's using your data and not just generic training. So you can't ask it things about its training. It has to be grounded in the documents that it has in search. And when Amazon first came out, we did this on the show, John. When Amazon first came out with their support assistant, or their whatever they call it, Rufus, their
something like that. Yeah,
shopping
I
assistant.
remember we asked it to do stuff that
we vibe coded an Angular to-do app with it. You cannot do that with Progress Agentic RAG. It will not, unless it is trained on Angular or React. I mean, so unless it is a
challenge accepted,
unless there is code in its documentation, then it's not gonna help you code. If you went into this one, it may do it because you can see there's like code examples and stuff in here. So it would help you code things that it knows about, but it's not going to help you code things it does not know about. What you could do, though, is you could use the RAG system as an MCP that helps a coding assistant. So say you have some proprietary code stuff that you want to have an MCP server for, so you can have it write more of that proprietary code. You could dump all of the samples and documentation and stuff you could build essentially some of the coding assistants that we have. So we have, all the UI libraries. We could take all of our documentation and everything and put them in Progress Agentic RAG and have it be the backbone for that. We started building our coding assistants before we purchased the technology, so we used something else, but you could essentially use this as well. There's again, it's just it's kind of like asking what's a good example of how you use a relational database, right? There's a million of them. It's just we're not in relational databases right now. We're talking about semantic search and AI capabilities for AI generation of custom data. So there's just so many things you can do with it.
Neat.
Yep. Happy to bring that to .NET. I think it's going to be an amazing tool. I think it's a great fit because of the conversation we had earlier. I didn't intend for this to happen, but all of the fragmentation that we've seen with agent framework, I think this tool is positioned nicely because it has a very specific use case. It has the AI capabilities that you need for RAG, and you have one SDK to work with. And that's not going to be, chopped up into something else later and repurposed as a new name. You can just get started with it, and it's very, very, very simple to get running. I used a lot of the common patterns and practices for SDK and .NET APIs that I've learned over the last 20 years. So there's a lot of stuff in there that's got that semantic sugar on it, right? It's really simple to write, but does a lot for you. It's got the heated seats in a couple places where it really needs them. What else? Do we have any more questions in chat, John?
Nope.
All right. So I think that was the big things that I wanted to hit for today. Any last remarks, John?
Nope. I'm gonna get back to it. I got lots of genning to do, as they say.
Alrighty. We'll be back next week. I'll talk a little bit more about the RAG system at another time, and we'll do a bit more on hang on, one last question. Where's the page on Telerik with the question box? It's actually on progress.com. It's on the main level site, so progress.com. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about Agent Framework as it evolves too, because that's going to be exciting news once it hits GA.
Looks awesome.
All right, John, thanks again for joining me, and we'll see you all next week. Take care.